Soy Mercedes, hoy estamos con Ernie Wright aquí en NASA y él nos va a contar algo súper interesante lo que está haciendo con imágenes de la Tierra y la Luna. How long have you been here in NASA?
So I've been here for 11 years.
Wow.
I originally came to NASA to work with Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. I got here when it was scheduled to launch, but the launch was delayed by a year. But ever since then, I've been working on all the data that has come back from LRO.
And what do you do with this data?
So I'm a visualizer, which means that I take the data and I put it into context. So if there's a map of the moon, I can wrap that around a sphere in 3D software and show people what the moon looks like based on that data.
So that's very important because what people have in their minds of the moon basically comes from somebody like you who puts the data together and the people then can interpret it, right?
Right. I mean, one of the big things that we do is provide context. So the data is often just a bunch of numbers, and you don't really know what they represent or if they're from a particular place on the moon. So we can map that onto the surface in a way that shows where it is and use color and animation to turn the data into something that you can see and appreciate and understand.
Even the black hole picture that went around the world,
yeah.
It was one interpretation of the data, right?
Exactly. There was a huge amount of data that came down, and then an enormous amount of computer processing to sort of draw out that image of the black hole. It was an amazing piece of work, but it took months.
What can you tell us about this great image about the moon?
So this is an animation that I've done since 2011, and it shows for the entire year what the phases of the moon are. And so every frame is 1 hour, and it's passing through all of its phases. But you'll notice it's also kind of turning like this, and it's moving like this a little bit. That's called libration. And libration reveals a little bit of the edges of the moon. So while the same face is always toward us, it's not exactly the same face. It actually shows us a little bit different, sometimes a little bit more on the left and sometimes a little more on the right. So it's showing all of those things. And it's using that beautiful LRO data for the color and for the shape of the surface.
Yeah, so it's important that this is not a telescope image, but it's a reconstruction based on data.
This is a reconstruction done in the computer, but it's also what you would see if you went outside on the date. And you probably can't see it, but right down in the corner is the date that it represents. So a lot of amateur astronomers use this. The page that this is on, they can go to and find out what the moon looks like right now, or they can put in a different date and find out what it looks like. And they always want to look right along this terminator, that's the day-night line, because that's when everything is thrown into high relief by the low sun.
Of course.
So you get a lot more detail and a lot more to see in your telescope, and so that's kind of what they're looking for. I think this is a great way to show what LRO data can do.
Everything that you need about the moon is in here.
That's right. I'd like to think so, yeah. But LRO has actually gotten pictures that are much closer than this. They've taken photographs of the Apollo landing sites, for instance, and you can actually see the bottom half of the spacecraft that landed there that's still there.
For the people who still don't believe
That's right. No, we really did go there. And we took pictures of what was left behind. You can see not just the spacecraft, but the footprints and the tracks of the rover in those photographs, which is great. And we've even used the LRO pictures to more precisely locate those landing sites. So we have them down to a few centimeters on the surface of the moon.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I feel very fortunate to be working here at NASA and to be working with lunar eclipse data, lunar reconnaissance orbiter data, and working on eclipses, working on the shape of the moon. It's given me an opportunity to meet astronauts. I get to work with amazing scientists every day. So I feel very fortunate, and I'm grateful to have the opportunity to talk about that with other people.
And we feel fortunate that you are working here and allow us to see this great compositions and interpretations of the data, because that's what we understand. And thank you very much for doing that.
Gracias, thank you very much. Yeah.
Cuando salga un video nuevo, suscríbete a nuestro canal oprimiendo el botón rojo y después la campanita.